Is the Bacchus in the painting male or female? Under the white curtain is obviously the body of a young and robust male, but he has a face as soft and round as a woman's. His extremely thin and exaggerated willow leaf eyebrows are curved like insects. His rude cheeks show a sickly redness. His slightly parted lips seem to be chanting seductive verses. One of his hands delicately holds a goblet, and the other hand strokes a silk ribbon. His eyes are hazy, as if he hasn't fully awakened from the previous revelry. In front of him is a plate of fruit symbolizing harvest, but the bright peels have already begun to show decay, expressing an ironic truth: happiness is often fleeting, and harvest is also the beginning of decline. No one is more like Bacchus than Caravaggio. He is unrestrained and wayward, but extremely talented. Caravaggio pursues not the artificial beauty but the terrifying truth. He pulls the saints off the altar and uses paintings to offer spiritual redemption to the common people who cannot read the Bible because they are illiterate. Fearless runs through his entire life, and Bacchus freezes his most glorious moment, proud and intoxicated. Sadly, at this time he has already seen his own end, the same end as Goliath. In 1602, Caravaggio created this painting, The Supper at Emaus. In the painting, two saints invite a strange pilgrim to have a meal. They recognize that this person is Christ. This painting wins with its simple and concise composition. It seems that Caravaggio has left a seat for the audience beside the table. The audience can enter the composition and become a direct participant in the events in the painting. This expression technique is reflected in many of Caravaggio's works. With a strong realistic expressiveness, Caravaggio shaped the images of ordinary people. The two saints are portrayed as middle-aged peasant figures in poor clothes. Their exaggerated gestures show great surprise. Standing beside the table is the restaurant owner. He is also listening attentively to Christ's speech and wants to understand what has happened. Each character is painted with a rich sense of substance. The hands of the two saints seem to be stretching out of the picture. Caravaggio also meticulously depicted the still life on the table with great interest: fruit baskets, roasted chickens, bowls, wine bottles, etc. In the painting David with the head of Goliath, although David is the victor and is holding the severed head of Goliath, even though he has succeeded in killing the enemy, there is no sign of victory on his face. He frowns and purses his lips, full of contradictory compassion and even some disgust. The most devilish self-portrait belongs to Caravaggio, an outstanding realist painter in Italy. Caravaggio's life is filled with quarrels, fights, and disputes in addition to his wonderful paintings. In 1606, 1608, and 1609, Caravaggio was involved in different homicide disputes respectively. In A David with the Head of Goliath, the head of Goliath held by David is actually the painter himself, Caravaggio's head. There are scars on Goliath's face in the painting because Caravaggio killed the other person in a fight with others and also left a scar on his own face. He intentionally showed this in his own painting, and that extremely distorted face also reflects his inner pain and struggle at that time. In 1600, Caravaggio created this painting, The Calling of St. Matthew. In the painting, Caravaggio used a dimly lit room with only 4 walls as the background to present this religious story. A group of tax collectors are sitting around a table. On the table are coins, ledgers, and an inkwell. On the right side of the table are 2 young men with swords. They seem to be representatives of the government tax collectors. The brightest part of the painting is concentrated on his carved shirt with a white background and black stripes. The bright parts of all the figures are carefully depicted, while the dark parts are relatively simple and unified. Light, as a medium of space, is consciously projected onto the faces of the figures and the places that the painter considers important. In this painting, colors are subordinate to the relationship between light and shade. We cannot see the full view of the figures in the painting. The light from right to left and the gazes of the people sitting from left to right form a strong dramatic conflict, highlighting the peasant image of Matthew. His skin is rough, wrinkled, and there are calluses on the soles of his feet. Matthew is looking at the people coming in. His face is brightly lit. The light highlights the main part, while the secondary part is immersed in shadow. All the figures and their reactions are excellently depicted, two young men with puzzled expressions, surprised Matthew, an old man wearing glasses and a greedy young man on the left. Caravaggio used the method of contrast between light and shade to handle this dramatic scene. Due to the strong contrast between light and shade, the story of the painting is more vivid. In 1601, a wealthy judge commissioned Caravaggio to paint for his private chapel, which was located in the new Carmelite church, the Church of Santa Maria della Scala. In 1606, the Carmelites rejected this work. Giulio Mancini, a contemporary of Caravaggio, recorded that it was rejected because Caravaggio used a popular prostitute as the model for the Virgin Mary in the painting. Another contemporary, Giovanni Baglione, told us that it was because the Virgin Mary had bare legs. Both situations were inappropriate. However, John Gash, a scholar who studies Caravaggio, believes that the Carmelites may have thought that the problem was more theological than aesthetic. Caravaggio's version did not adhere to the doctrine of the Assumption of the Virgin Mary. The Mother of God did not die in the usual sense but was taken into heaven. The replacement work, from Carlo Saraceni, Caravaggio's most talented follower, depicted the Virgin Mary not dead but sitting and about to die. But even so, it was still rejected. In the final replacement painting, the Virgin Mary is not dead but ascends to heaven with the singing angels. In any case, rejection does not mean that Caravaggio and his followers fell out of favor. After the death of the Virgin was taken out of the church, it was immediately bought by the Duke of Mantua on the advice of Rubens. Later, it was obtained by King Charles I of England and was collected by the French royal family in 1671. John the Baptist is a prophet who baptized Jesus Christ. He preached in the Jewish region at that time and called on people to repent. King Herod married Herodias, the wife of his brother Philip. John the Baptist condemned this act that violated religious teachings, which made Herodias hold a grudge. At King Herod's birthday banquet, Salome, the daughter of Herodias, danced for King Herod. King Herod was very happy and promised to fulfill any of her wishes. Under the instigation of her mother, Salome asked for the head of John the Baptist. Although King Herod was reluctant, due to his oath, he finally ordered John the Baptist to be beheaded and sent his head on a plate to Salome. This story is often depicted by artists in the field of art. Painters like Caravaggio have created paintings with this as the theme, vividly showing the tense, cruel scenes and the complex emotions of the characters in the story. The Boy with a Basket of Fruit is a work by Caravaggio. It was created in Caravaggio's early days in Rome. This painting embodies the naturalistic painting style, that is, the pursuit of a true reproduction of nature without deliberately beautifying or exaggerating. The painting shows the theme of daily life with precise depictions, allowing the audience to feel the authenticity and vividness of daily scenes. In 1596, Caravaggio created this painting, The Lute Player. In the painting, a dark-eyed girl with black hair is singing while accompanying herself with a lute. Here, Caravaggio neither expresses deep emotions nor portrays complex psychological states of characters. In the composition of this painting, the painting technique of contrast between light and shade plays an important role. This technique was also widely used in Caravaggio's later creations. The entire room is in shadow. The bright light coming in from the left highlights the figure of the girl in the shadow and illuminates the items on the table in front of her: fruits, vases, music scores, and violins. Caravaggio observed carefully and depicted the moment when light and dark objects influenced each other on the canvas. The incoming light is reflected from the girl's shoulder onto her cheek, and the refraction of white paper forms the shadows on the lute and violin. It is said that Caravaggio liked this painting very much. Indeed, this painting is an excellent work of his early period. The oil painting The Cardsharps, created by Caravaggio in 1594, is his representative work and is now housed in the Kimball Art Museum. The painting depicts a scene where an innocent young boy is falling into the trap of swindlers. The young man in black on the left side of the painting is looking down at the playing cards in his hand seriously. Behind him stands a man, who is staring wide-eyed and peeking at his cards sideways, making hand gestures and secret signals to another player. After seeing the signal, the player opposite quickly secretly changes the cards from behind and has an indifferent expression on his face, waiting for the young man to play his cards. Just through the detailed depiction of expressions and postures, a hidden scam under the table is vividly presented. Caravaggio even painted out in fine detail and completeness the wrinkles on everyone's clothes, the feathers on the hats, and the small and intricate patterns on the tablecloth, making the whole picture show a sense of meticulousness. Caravaggio's superb painting skills give this simple scene a sense of drama. The three characters present a complex character relationship: deceiver, swindler, and accomplice.